but that's okay. A lot of people are traveling today, it seems like. Any case, well, I want to get started. So I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Joe Ilucci from Keller Williams. I'm sure most of you know me. They've been on this REO Mastermind for the last couple of weeks. In the corner to my right, and I don't know where she's going to show up on your screen, is the amazing Heidi Skinner, who's co-hosting with me. So she's smiling over there with the glasses next to us. So just look for the people with the glasses. We're all in charge. Herschel's got glasses also. So follow the guys with the glasses. They're the smart ones.
Take the mic off.
Put them on, John. Put them on. Okay. And Brian's got his on. Yeah. Buddy, Erica's got them on too. Good group. Martin? Oh, everybody has glasses. So it's
Yeah, I tell you, I'm not in charge. I'm taking them off.
No, leave them on. Leave them on. It's all good. I can't read without them, so I have to leave them on. But so today I wanted to just hit some of the points that really is going to give you some background on the REO business. To begin with, we kind of laid it out, and every show is going to be different. Let's put it that way. And I'm going to go over different things. So I don't want you to think that if you were part of one of the other meetings today, you're going to hear the same stuff. So it's always different. But one of the things we wanted to do is go over the requirements for REO listings. And I'm trying to see who we have here in the group. I know Brian Jones has done a bunch of REO stuff. And Mike up in the top, Mike Portier from LA. And I think Skip from Northern Nevada has done some stuff. But we're just going to run through some stuff. So I'm going to go over the requirements for REO. And I'm going to talk about setting up your team. And then we're just going to go through from assignment through sale. And then we're going to touch a little bit on team building, and then the amazing Heidi Skinner is going to also touch on some short sales. She's my short sale superstar. So we're going to touch on that. If we have enough time, we'll go through everything. If not, we'll cut it back and we'll regroup for the next meeting. But I think one of the biggest things we're going to find is that if you're going to position yourself as an REO broker, you're going to need to cut your current expenses back and kind of trim down a little bit, because it's not easy being an REO guy. I mean, when I started, I was very surprised that every dollar I had in my bank account was kind of out on loan to these different banks and services. So one of the things you want to do is cut back on things you don't need. And I think today, in the way the market is, you want to reduce any type of office space you have that you're not using. I came out of a 4,900 square foot office with 2 assistants, and I was carrying that for quite a while. And when the business slowed down, we didn't necessarily transition to resale, and we carried that expense for quite a while. So that's one of the things you need to look at, just so you have just enough space to do things. Everything is kind of going to be zip code. I'm going to say based on zip codes. So the servicers are going to kind of base it on your location of your office, and it could range anywhere from 15 to 30 miles, depending on the company, on who it is. I know, and Mike can nod for me, or unless he can jump in and say it. I know with HUD, I think we were 30 miles, right, from the office.
I think you're right, Joe. I've kind of lost touch with that because I don't think the current asset manager adheres to those rules, and those may be antiquated.
Yeah, I think anything goes now is the term.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so I know some of the bigger things like Wells and Fannie and stuff, they were doing 15 miles. So again, you want to make sure you're in a zip code friendly area. You don't want to be in the highest end, because there typically aren't going to be that many properties in the highest and best neighborhood. And you don't want to be in the lowest, and I'm going to use the term worst neighborhood. We're open here. We can say anything. We're amongst friends. You don't want to be in the worst neighborhood either, because then you're going to be, well, 2 things I see is, one, that lower end product tends to sell at the foreclosure sale. So it might never come REO. So if there's, let's use Vegas. So up in the Northeast or downtown, there might be, 25 defaults, let's say, and a good 20 of them are going to sell at the trustee sale. There's going to be more investors in that lower end market than there would be, in the other zip codes. And also, again, you don't also want to have the higher end areas. I mean, you'll get higher end listing, but your volume will be a little bit lower. And then we want to make sure all the systems are in place and make sure you're in all the portals you need to be in to manage your properties. So I know today that's kind of changed a little bit. You know, way back it used to be Fannie Mae had their own portal. Now, last I knew, at least they were in Equator. Wells Fargo has their own portal built from Aspen Grove. Some of the others are going to be on ResNet or Pyramid. And I'm trying to think of the other platform that's out there.
Think of America's on
We'll touch on it. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And make sure you're in, you have your information. You're going to need your license, your broker's license. In some cases, like Fannie Mae, the properties belong to the broker of the office. They're not going to belong to the agent. So the broker is going to be, it's pretty much assigning for everything. So if you were, let's say, a cautionary note, if you were to leave that office, then technically those properties would stay with the broker. Some of the other ones like Wells Fargo, they go with the agent. So if the agent were to maybe leave wherever they're at, then they most likely would reassign it and leave it with you. You're going to need your E&O insurance updated. And a lot of times if it's getting ready to expire, it's going to start triggering tasks over and over again to replace it. So make sure you have the current thing and you kind of push your office to get it as early as they can. Because if your E&O isn't in place and that link expires in the portal, you're out, you're not going to show up. So on the servicer side, it'll show just who's active. Sometimes you'll get an asset manager you worked with before and they'll reach out to you and say, hey, Mike, I went into ResNet and I don't see you in there. Did you pay for your pro membership? Go add it in and then I'll assign you the property later. So some of us have those relationships where we're able to do that and get that done later. Where am I at? I'm not really a public speaking person, so guys, bear with me. And then
Joe,
also,
one of the questions we got was, are there any credit score requirements or cash reserve requirements? For the different
I'm
lending?
glad you brought that up. That's going to be that was one of the things I was getting to next. But yeah, you're going to make sure you have enough cash. I don't really remember if anybody really looked at credit score. I know there were times that I had 400 Nevada Power accounts in my name, and Las Vegas Water and Henderson Water, and so sometimes if you're over tapped, those utility companies would make you leave a deposit. But so you definitely need to have some money. I'm going to touch on that as I get further down, but that's a good point, Bill. And Heidi, make sure I stay on track and I bring that back up as we get to it. So requirements, and here we go, cash in the bank. So you're going to need to carry repairs, utilities, do cash for keys, and you're going to need to pay whatever staff you have. So as far as utilities, once you take possession of the property and you're in, let's say.
Oh, hi, Shasta. This is Peter Park.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Good.
Peter's converting the call for us.
Good. I'm going to go ahead and pull up your account really quick.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
First, can I verify the EIN
Maybe
number?
he'll
Oh my God,
Buy
he's probably not
lunch.
going to want to hear. Let's see.
All right. Anyway, so you're going to want to make sure you have the funds for that. The last thing any of these clients are going to want is when you say, I didn't turn the power on because I don't have enough money or I couldn't leave the deposits. The clients aren't going to be responsible for the deposits. That's going to be on your end. So make sure you have the funds in there so that when you do open those power and water accounts, that you don't have to worry about that. We've had situations where we've opened a power account for an agent, that we JV'd with, and there'd be a deposit that was needed, and on the first bill, the agent would pay the deposit and then submit it for reimbursement. The last thing the client wants is
Thank
any
you for the
unnecessary
EIN
things,
number. So
or they don't
it
want
looks
that
like
ability to
you
have to.
were able to process some estimated returns that we didn't receive.
Hey, Peter. Peter, can you mute your line?
I think he just did. Okay, great. Anyway, so yeah, so just make sure that you have those funds so that you can and get those things paid for and lay that money out. So those will be reimbursed for utilities and repairs, but some turnaround is different. Some clients are looking at a 30-day turnaround on reimbursement. Some look at a 15-day. Some have that very fine line on what you're going to submit to them. So if you submit the power bill, you have to submit it on with a certain form or submit it online a certain way. The dates have to all coincide. So if you rekeyed the property today and it was vacant and you opened the power account, that would start on that day, not the assignment date, not, you know, a week later. It needs to start on that day. And then when you submit those, you have to make sure. I mean, there were days we chased reimbursements, so we had to put a, you know, back when we were super busy. The most listings we've had in a year was probably 780, 786, I think it might have been. And that year was probably better run than the year at 618, where I had more people, too many chefs in the kitchen, kind of organizing it. But on those bigger years, it's possible to lose 100 to 200,000 in reimbursement money if it's not submitted properly. And once a file closes, I think you have 10 to 15 days, depending on who that bank or servicer is. And if you don't get it submitted, it's over. You just lose that. If it's an outsourcer in between, you have to take into consideration that you're submitting it to the outsourcer, and then the outsourcer submitting it to the client. And timeframes are even tighter, so you have to make sure you're on track with those as well. Let's see. So what else do I have? All right. Also, your staff. You're gonna have to be able to carry your staff. You're not gonna be able to do this all yourself. In the beginning, you can. I mean, you can get an assignment and go out to the property and check the property and do your property inspection and come back and work on your BPO and get it uploaded and, you know, hire your contractors and get the contractors out. You can do all that. Once you start to pick up momentum, you're gonna need staff in place, and that's critical on how you hire staff. You could get somebody super experienced coming from another team or office, and maybe they have bad habits, and then you have to correct those. You could break in somebody new, but no one's gonna ever work as good as you do, you know, especially in something like this. It's gonna be very hard to put everything in place. So to start it off, the first thing you're going to do is you'd receive a property assignment from the client. So it's either going to come through a portal via notification or maybe an email. In the old days, we used to get emails from the clients, and they would all shoot over an email. Hey, can you take this property for me in, let's say, North Las Vegas? And we would, you know, we'd take anything. I mean, I'd cover all of Clark County. And, you know, when I started, now we, you know, obviously we have a bigger footprint now, we're in multiple states, but back then when I started, we would make sure we could cover Clark County. We'd go to Mesquite, we'd go down all the way to Laughlin, and we'd do it all the same day. So you have to make sure you can hit your assignments. And the biggest thing I tell everybody, if an inspection or an occupancy check isn't due until, let's say, Tuesday, don't just take the weekend off and run out on Monday. I would still go out today on the day you get the assignment, because you never know what you're going to be faced with, or if the property is going to be occupied or vacant. So I would say jump on it right away, stay ahead of it. Make sure you have a good camera or a phone with a very sharp camera on it, where you can take quality pictures with a nice wide angle, because, you know, when you get this assignment, you're technically the boots on the ground for the bank. So that asset manager or that REO guy, whoever it is, there at the client side, they're counting on you to do everything, and they're going to see everything through your eyes. So you have to be very detailed. And it's most important that you go there and take pictures of everything you see, and then also take notes. I always have been like, you know, I'm kind of tangled up in the middle of a phone or a conversation, and I've gone into an inspection and I missed something, and then later you come back and it, you know, could be a disaster. So none of these clients or banks or services are going to want to explain to you how to do something. They're going to send you their broker handbook or their broker manual, which we're working on. Actually, Heidi's working on it now. She's updating our broker handbook and manual, and it's going to be, we're going to call it the REO broker playbook. So she should have that in the next week or two. Right, Heidi? Week or two? Anyway, but so we'll have that, and that's going to kind of be a guide to follow and step by step what you need to do. But again, the first thing is, so if I got the assignment right now and I was on the Zoom, I'd have to, of course, jump off because I'd have to concentrate. But I would dig up all the property details. I'd pull the tax record. Sometimes they make mistakes. They can give you the wrong zip code. It could be Las Vegas, but it's North Las Vegas. you know, we've had things that said Logandale and it wasn't Logandale, and you know, you're at a loss. So you need to make those corrections immediately. I look for the APN number and then I'd go to the tax record. A lot of times it's gonna have the banker services information. It might say on there, let's say Celine Servicing or Wells Fargo or whatever it is. Or it might still be in that previous owner's name. Depends on when the tax records were updated. One of the things I did when I first got out here to Vegas is I wanted to see what was happening as far as action. And I subscribed to that Nevada Legal News, and it actually tracked the foreclosure sales. And I was able to watch the property, if it sold at the auction, if it went back to the bank. And then I would track by the actual company doing the foreclosure to who it would go to. So back then, Wells Fargo used one company and Bank of America used a different company. And we could tell, you know, where the properties were actually going to. A lot of times, you know, back then when I was trying to prove myself, I would pull that up. I'd see it went to back to the bank. I would say back to beneficiary. And I would drive out to the property. I'd do an occupancy check, and then I would just track down that that client until I got to where I had to get to. And I'd say, hey, I've already been to the property. I already know it's vacant. I could have it rekeyed today and have the BPO to you by the end of the day. I mean, you know, again, it doesn't work all the time, but as you build your momentum and your name and your reputation, they're going to appreciate that. So a lot of times you could sidestep your way in into a property that way. And then your occupancy check is super important. That's going to be the first thing you do. You're going to go out there and you're going to pull up to a house that probably looks like, so if you're in Vegas, it's going to look like every other house on the block. If you're in California, it could be completely different from the houses next to it. It could look like the picture from a previous MLS, because before you left, you're going to pull up property details. Going to see if it was listed before, what does it look like, you know, to kind of get an idea to guide you. Then when you get out there for the occupancy check, you're going to have to look to see, is it occupied? Now, you're not going to be able to walk right into the house, obviously. You're not going to be able to knock, you don't want to knock on the door. So you're going to kind of just have to troubleshoot it and figure it out. You're going to look to make sure that all the lawn and the shrubs and everything is alive and prospering. You might want to see power's on. So if you pull up early in the morning, and I would always tend to do these super early in the morning. I would tend to hit it like, you know, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, as soon as it gets light, or it's still a little bit of dusk. I would roll in and look for those things, like the front light on, cars in the driveway. And there could be an abandoned car in the driveway, or a car they had a loan on that they left behind after they got foreclosed. And sometimes people leave a house full of furniture. So sometimes, excuse me, just looking in the window isn't necessarily going to tell you everything. You got to kind of have to creep around. So one of the things I do is I go to the side of the house, try to hit the water spout to see if the water comes out. I mean, here in Vegas, obviously, if you didn't have your water on, you'd probably be dead. Those people in the house, they need their water. Power, I'd look for the tag from Nevada Power to see if it's the meters tagged already. Once you know it's vacant, your next step is going to be to report it vacant to your client. So they're all going to be in portals now. Like I said, very seldom it'll be by email. But let's say, you know, you can log in. Now you can technically, I bring a laptop with me. I have a very lightweight Samsung. And that's tools and systems is something we'll get into as we go further. Heidi's building that out for us right now, actually. But I carry this super lightweight Samsung, and then I also have this, my favorite thing, one of my favorite tools is the Microsoft phone with the window. It's like having a little laptop with me. Microsoft Duo 2. It's obsolete these days, but I still use it. And you want to make sure that you, while you're there doing that occupancy check, make sure you have a phone that can take good enough photos. I tend to do like 460 by 640, I believe the photo size is. And always, every photo you take always has to be in landscape mode. These photos aren't going to work when you just hold the phone up and down. You're not doing a glamour photo, always in landscape. And then make sure you set your settings if you're going to use your phone. Make sure you set your settings for a smaller version, for the smaller picture. I think it's like 1 or different ratios in the settings. Heidi's going to do a recap for us, and we're going to have all that stuff in the recap. Right?
We have
Heidi?
AI doing the recap.
I can count on her. She's amazing. I'm so grateful I found her, and I have her here working with me. But in any case, make sure you take, again, troubleshooting while you're there, get everything done that you can. Take a photo left from the front, take a photo center, take a photo right from the front. I would always take pictures of anything that could be taken or stolen, the water meter, the gas meter, hose bibs. And Mike can tell you on like the HUD inspections, we literally took pictures of everything possible. And we'd have to find a way to get into the house. So you may, if it looks like it's vacant, you may want to go into the backyard. Sometimes the slider is open. Sometimes the window's open. I always find my way without breaking something to get in, and I'll start taking my interior photos. There's personal belongings in the house, depending on the client and the state. You could do a personal property eviction, and that kind of puts a halt on everything until this 30 days expires. A couple clients, we were able to have a contract to come in and move all the contents from the property into the garage and rekey the garage separately. And this way we can move forward with the property and still let the 30 days on that personal property eviction tick. And we were able to do that. I don't know if anybody wants to add to that piece yet. Just let me just finish as far as these interior photos, and then I'll call on you guys to see what you have to add. While you're in there taking the pictures, again, wide angles, I take 2 or 3 from each room. I make sure I get the flooring. I make sure I get the ceiling. I make sure I note any water damage, if there's any cracks in the ceiling. I note the flooring. If there's any rips in the carpet or linoleum, if it's linoleum or missing tiles, that could affect FHA financing. So it's definitely something you want to report. We take photos under the sink. A lot of times if there's that reverse osmosis filtering system, a lot of the clients like Fannie Mae used to just have them take that out as part of the trash out. So they didn't have to be liable for it. So take pictures of everything. And I'd make sure I'd order my rekey. Or what I always did is I would always work with a locksmith that I'd be able to call from the property and say, I'm at the property, it's vacant, can you get down in here now and rekey it? And a lot of times they would just come down and rekey it while I'm there doing my pictures. And it saves on time. Now I'm controlling the property. And, you know, I have controlling the bank's asset, basically. And that means I'm controlling it, they're in control of it. I know back in the HUD days, we had a preservation company that would go out and rekey all the properties. We'd get there and they'd all be vacant and ready to go. But there were times that a key would be broken in the front door lock, or a key would be broken in the back door lock. And the asset management company back then would say, keep doorknobs in your car coded to the key of that you know, the doorknob lock coded to the same key that you opened the door with that was supposed to be there. And if you have to change that front doorknob, change it. And that's a non-reimbursable expense. So we might go in there, I might go to a house and have to change the deadbolt in that front door key, you know, because if I paid a locksmith, theoretically, I would end up eating it. So there were times that once we were inside, we would just do that ourselves. But again, locksmiths are all licensed and insured. It makes better to make sure the property is secured the right way, and that you're working with a locksmith that's gonna kind of work with you. And that comes into, again, the billing thing. You know, it could cost $150 to rekey a house. It could have nicer Schlage locks or those, you know, German or French handles, and it could run into, you know, $400 to rekey the house. So make sure that you're prepared financially, like we said in the beginning, to be able to carry that. If you rekey it today, most of the locksmiths are willing to let you go a little bit. I don't know, Mike, what do you usually work on with your contractors? What type of a turnaround time?
Well, I hate to, I'm getting, my locksmith has got me spoiled pretty good. We rekeyed a property yesterday. He charged $180. That's low cost. It included a couple of Schlage doors also. So it wasn't just quick sets as well. So pretty good deal. Included padlocks. So yeah, that's the low end. Like you say, it could be hundreds of dollars.
Right. And yeah, especially in California. So Mike's in LA County. He gets all kinds of things, you know.
And I want these guys to be responsive. They want to work with me. If I get an assignment now, I like to meet him out there within the hour. But let's go. And usually he will do that unless he's on another job.
Right. And that's important.
Responsiveness is really key.
Yeah, you're building that vendor network is something that's going to also need to put into play. I mean, a lot of times, if let's say I would have a property in LA and I'd call Mike and be like, hey, you know, do you have a locksmith that could be out here today? And he might say, call Bob, he's my locksmith. And then I call and say, hey, Mike Portier recommended you. Can you come out to my property? And, you know, now you have that key guy that you could work with. So, or Mike can say, no, these are my guys. You can't use them. Don't come into my county. And it's very protective though, about the people that are currently working in these areas. Not everybody's as nice as Mike. You come across a lot of aggressive guys. I can tell you some New York stories. All right, I'll tell you a quick story. Anyway, so when I started in REO, I was in New York on Long Island, and I got a property in Franklin Square, which is in, I'm going to call it North, I'll just say North Nassau County. I went out to the property, I rekeyed the property, I put my no trespassing sign up with my office information, and I went through and I took my photos back then. And back then we used the regular cameras that had film. So we took all our photos. You don't know what they're going to look like until it's developed. So now you could look back, but back then you couldn't. I left the property, had my window thing up. I got a hold of a locksmith. I went back, he rekeyed it for me. And then about an hour and a half later, the closest agent, who was a big REO guy, went in, tore my sign out of the window, somehow got in because I was rekeyed to the same type of key. Some of these guys have keys to everything. And he gave me a hard time from the day I got that assignment until the property closed. Made it like probably the worst thing I've ever come across. So there is some hazing that goes on in the business. It's not supposed to talk about it, but it's there. So I've had a lot of crazy things.
Let me add a
But,
tip. Can I add a tip for you, Joe? When you're putting your signs in the windows to identify the property, and you're also saying no trespassing, it's a good idea in today's environment to put, if you're here to rent this property, you're being scammed, call the police and call me. Okay. That's a huge scam these days.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, any vacant property. We got, and we're going to touch on the cash for keys piece, which is, it used to be the biggest scam going, but yeah, that's important. So make a note of that. Mike's absolutely correct in that. That's definitely something that you want to make sure you have on that notice. And you know what? It's a templated word form. I think and I'm sure Mike's is similar. It's you have that non-trespassing, and trespassers will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Again, if you're here to rent this property, it's a scam. And then your contact information. And the reason why you need that is a lot of times too, you might have county people or city people out there to maybe put a violation on the property. If they can't get a hold of you, it's just going to go on the property. Most of the time, they're going to call you. I had that I had a couple of properties in Compton last year, and we got broken into literally 5-6 times a week. And I ended up getting somebody from the city came down, and violation after violation. They called me, leave a message, we left a violation. And it became a disaster. I mean, we ended up handling it and getting everything taken care of, but it was definitely a little bit of a hard time. Okay, so just to get back on track here with once you're in that property, whether the locksmith rekeys, whether you call through a window or however you get in there, again, make sure I would take 3 or 4 pictures of each room. A lot of times they're going to be a little blurry, or there's going to be something wrong with your phone or your camera, or you're not going to get a full view. You want to use a very wide angle so that you can get a full view of the room and not just a little corner. I mean, that's another thing we'll talk about when we get more deep into BPOs. And the BPO is really a REO version of a CMA on steroids. And some of the BPO companies have changed so much that they almost look like an informal appraisal now. And they're getting pretty detailed. Again, once you do all that, if there's you've got to troubleshoot too now. So if you're at the property and there's a pool and the pool's green, there's going to be, based on the client's broker manual, what is their fault? What is their policy? If the pool is green, does it need to be pumped out and then covered? Can you just put a pool cover over it? On some of the clients we had in the past, we had to put like a wood boarding over the pool to actually secure the pool. And you know what? You got to have your contractors ready to jump right on that, because once your sign goes in that window, you're responsible for that property. If you're getting fined after that day you took over that property, the client's going to come back to you and be, hey, Brian, I'm not going to use you anymore. You keep missing stuff. The one day that one guy misses something is the day that next person gets an opportunity. So for us, we don't want to miss anything. We're going to make sure we're on the ball and we're on top of it. And that we make sure we keep whatever clients we get. All right. So next thing will be is to start thinking about your BPO while you're there. A lot of times people will pull comps first. I might just kind of know in my head the address and just make sure it's the same house. In California, everything is different. Every house looks different. Most times you can have two different houses next to each other. In Vegas, we're gonna, we have it made actually. You can pull into a subdivision, the builder bought 3 or 4 different models he built, and they replicate that throughout the subdivision. So doing your comparables is a lot easier in Vegas. So, in New York, we didn't have square footage in Nassau County. We'd have to actually go through the tax records and look for it, but in our MLS we didn't have it. So it makes it more difficult. And again, on the BPO, always make sure those comps are within 200 square feet. In Vegas, I always try to make it a model match so that I have exact information and it's not going to skew it a little bit. And I try to make sure I stay in the subdivision too. You could go, and I'm going to use Vegas as an example. I'm sure Mike can, things might vary in California. But in Vegas, if you could be in one subdivision, let's say here, and they're built by KB and they're all entry-level homes, and then within a mile, because everything's going to be within a mile, all your comps, you could have a Toll Brothers community, and they can be, built like $1 million house and have upgrades and, expensive detail to it. So if you're not really looking at these comps before you use them, you're going to be in store for a surprise when you bring a BPO in at the wrong price. And BPOs in itself is its own learning lesson in class. And that's something that we can go over. We have a BPO training that a couple of us have worked on, and we can kind of go through that together. Or I might even be something that we offer live when we do the live events. And this way everybody could be there and ask questions and see it up on the screen together and take notes. But I'm sure you guys are taking notes, right? Everybody taking notes? All right, nobody's nodding. All right, Martin's nodding. Okay. All right. Vicky, thank you. Anyway, and again, some of you experience, like I said, Brian and Mike have, put their time in. I'm trying to see who else is in the group. But off the top of my head, those are going to be the 2 I'm going to pick on right now. And again, so that your BPO, again, if it's a single-story home, you can use single-story comps. If it's a 2-story home, only 2-story comps. And when I say model match, that's what I mean, the same square footage. And again, another thing to look at is a lot of the builders, just so you know, so you're prepared, a lot of the builders might build a 2,200 square foot house, let's say, in a 2-story as a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom. One may offer the loft as a bedroom. So the tax records could still say 3-bedroom, 3-bath. But in reality, it's a 4-bedroom. So somebody, while they were having that house built, optioned to have that loft turned into a 4th bedroom. And sometimes the tax records aren't accurate. So make sure you get that right. Because from a 4-bedroom to a 3-bedroom in some communities could change the value drastically. It can definitely change things. And also take pictures of the landscape too when you're out doing that inspection prior to the BPO. Dead shrubbery are going to be HOA violations. So I had a property a couple of years back. It was a Fannie Mae property. It was up in North Las Vegas, gated community. We got an offer on it the 3rd day we listed it. They were quick close. Finally, we find out that there's a violation. HOA is foreclosing on the lien, on the HOA violation on the lien. So Nevada's a super lien state, so they move into the 1st position. So theoretically, they're ahead of the bank. So once they foreclose, they pretty much own the property for whatever that lien amount is. So in this particular case, I think the property is about 325. We were literally going to be closing. It was a super quick deal. I think we were going to be closing, let's say, on a Friday. We notified the asset manager on a Monday, and I said, hey, there's this HOA lien. We need to pay it before they take the property over and they go to foreclosure. All right, submit it and we'll see what happens. Nothing happened. I asked every day, nothing happened. Sure enough, we were going to close, and the asset manager said, have them put it on the HUD. Well, they foreclosed on the lien the day before. So as we went into close on Friday, all of a sudden it turned out that they had foreclosed and they were in the 1st position, and that HOA pretty much took that house over for the minimal amount of money. I think this might have been like a $7,000 lien or something. So they ended up taking the property, and I was like upset. I was telling the asset manager, hey, we've been telling you all along. And so in this case with Fannie Mae, it goes back to the original servicer. So they were like, well, that's Bank of America's problem. We don't have to worry about it. But if that was my property that I owned and I was the investor on that loan, I'd be smoking if I lost the house for $7,000 that I had in escrow for a $250,000 or 320, whatever it was. Anyway, so that kind of jumps into that. I'm trying to follow my notes so I can unload. I can pour into you as Darren tells me here in the office, pour into you all I can, so you guys can get benefit from this. We talked about the comps, and every BPO form is going to be different. It's not going to be an email form. It's going to be online in their portal. Another thing I recommend is that you save this as you go through the BPO. Click the save button. I've gotten to the point where I've completely finished it and I've been in notes, and the portal times out or the internet goes down and I lose the whole thing and have to start over. And there's nothing worse than that when you're doing it yourself. One of the things we did to kind of move things forward as we got busy is we had a BPO team in place as we had an inspection team in place. And my team would go out and they'd inspect the property. They'd take those pictures. Now we have it refined to the point where we're FaceTiming through the inspection so that I can truly control it. I was talking to Ray Duran earlier. He's traveling today, so he's not on the call. But, you know, back in the day when we had 500-600 properties, you couldn't see every property. You couldn't get inside every property because you were busy, you know, moving things, getting deals done and following up on stuff. So there were times we didn't see properties, and as a point now, I make sure we're into every property. You know, we even record those inspections so that we can see them. So that's something to think about now too for moving forward, is utilize the tools we have and make sure. You may miss something at the property and then you may see it later in the video or in the, you know, if you save the FaceTime or record it, and that's important. So our team was broken up, just so you kind of get it, how we did things, and that's why you need multiple people involved. And we're gonna, you know, we're gonna go through all the details, and then some of you may say, hey, I can't put all those pieces together, or I need to see if I have enough money to even do this, and that's something we could look at on a one-on-one, and we can go from there. I'm gonna have Darren help us. He's gonna meet with us individually to, you know, kind of go through it with us and kind of set ourselves up as teams so that we can produce at a high level. I think there's a lot of volume coming, and it's going to come in different ways. So there's going to be pre-foreclosure stuff, and Heidi's our short sale maven, so she's going to touch on all that short sale stuff. And that's going to be more of a people person business. You're going to need to connect with that homeowner in trouble, and you're going to have to be a psychiatrist and psychologist, and you're going to have to tell some funny stories to keep them from going crazy or losing control. And REO is a little bit different. REO is more of a cut and dry, you know. I mean, I hate to say it, but I would go and I take their move out notice if it's occupied. Hey, you need to move out. The property's been foreclosed on. Contact us within, you know, 24 to 48 hours. We're starting the eviction. And people would call immediately and they'd talk and they'd like, you know, hey, what do I have to do to move out and things like that. So I brought up one of the expenses you're going to have is cash for keys, and that's going to be critical. So back in the day, there were a bunch of different things going on. Like Mike said, hey, this is not a rental. So we had with some services would say our cash for keys is going to be anywhere from $500 to $1,500. That's what we're going to give them to move out of the property and make sure it's in broom swept condition. And then you pick up the property and start managing and handling the property. Some banks, like back in, I'm going to call it 2008, 2009, got a little too generous and were offering $10,000, $15,000 for cash for keys. So what was happening is people were moving into vacant properties just to get the cash for keys. They move in, they put some furniture, throw some things around, maybe the living room, have some pots in the kitchen, some takeout food, and then you hang that note and they call and they say, okay, I'll take, you know, $10,000 because they have access to go to the assessor to see if it's Bank of America property or Fannie Mae property, and they can see what, you know, what the trend is online of who's paying what. And then now as the REO agent, guess what? We're laying that money out. So if Bank of America says, Mike, I want you to do a cash for keys offer up to $10,000, Mike's going to lay that $10,000 out. It's going to be his check or a certified check from his account until he gets his reimbursement anywhere from 15 to 30 days later. Now think about it. If he had 10 of those in LA County, all $1 million houses, it's going to be hefty cash for keys. And you're going to lay that out until you get it back. And if you submit it wrong, you might not get it back. So you got to be prepared to lose the money and be okay with it and sleep at night. And you can't go strangle a bank, you know. You could the asset manager. Eventually you'll meet people and find out they're like 22 years old and you give them the old, no, you can't do that. Then you lose all your business. They'd be like, that Mike guy's a ruffian. He comes in here, roughs me up all the time. All right, so where were we at? We talked about comps. We talked about BPO requirements, forms, ongoing inspections. So now you have this property, you're not just gonna list it and put it in the MLS and handle buyer calls. You can also re-inspect this property. Some are weekly, some are every 10 days, some are every 14 days. You know what, I see Mike, and the only thing I know we had in common was HUD. I don't know what other clients he had, but I'm gonna bring HUD up. We did ongoing routine inspections every 15 days. We go out to the properties, took a photo of every room. We put them on a form, we'd submit them. If they weren't labeled correctly, they'd send it back to us, we'd do it over. If we put, the photos were blurry or yellowy, or the lighting wasn't right, or they were too dark, we'd go back and do it over again. So sometimes it can be multiple trips. And I think these banks and services this time around, they're gonna have more inexperienced people, and then talking to clients at that client level. And that's what I mean by, when I'm saying clients, I'm talking about banks and services. They're gonna have new people in this department taking this role on. So you have to be the best that you could be in order to give them the best they can get. And then they're always gonna go to you. If you don't know and you're asking them what to do, they're gonna be worried because they don't wanna make the mistake of telling you what. So Fannie Mae used to always say to us, when we had a question, we'd call and we'd say to the asset manager, I have a question for you. What do I do in this case? And they'd say, read the broker handbook, and they'd hang up the phone. And then you'd rifle through 500 pages until you found the answer, and it wasn't necessarily clear. And then you didn't know what to do. But, you know, you did the best you could. You made a mistake, you're out, and we'll go to the next guy. Or we'll go to the guy maybe in your own office that has that same account. And then that really blows, you know, when they pass that over and you lose that. What do we else we have? Let's see. Oh, and as far as the property, if the property were, where am I at here? I wanted to talk about coordinate. All right, wait a minute. Ongoing inspections. Okay. Squatters is my favorite thing. So as the house sits vacant, those people are going to move in to hopefully get, you know, cash for keys to leave. Even if the property was vacant at one time and your sign's in the window, they could still do that. They could still move into the property. And then you got to remember too, if you're, you know, I'm going to use Heidi as my example. If you're little Heidi here and you're walking into the property and you think it's vacant and you got your camera and you're on your phone setting your hair appointment, or you're, you know, talking to your agents on your short sale, and you're not paying attention, you don't know who's going to come around the corner. So if the door is closed and it wasn't closed last time you were there, you never know what you're going to find. And I think we all have a story. I'll throw one quick story at you. I was doing a HUD inspection on a HUD property, and after this inspection, we were having a Prudential Awards ceremony, and I was top agent or whatever it is at the time. I was like, I think number 1 or 2 in the nation or whatever. We weren't sure of the numbers. And so it was a dinner that was going to tell you where you fell in this whole thing. So I got the property maybe like a week or 2 ago. I was just doing a routine inspection. So I'm wearing my very expensive Zanga suit that a friend bought for me as a present, because I don't want you guys to think I can afford a Zanga suit. I was wearing my leather trench coat because I look like a Fugine Italian from New York. So I'm a New York guy. And as I'm going through the property, I'm on the phone at the time talking to my girlfriend. And, you know, of course it's 110 degrees. So that's another thing. And I'm dressed up, so I'm starting to sweat immediately. I go through all the rooms, you know, as I'm talking on the phone, schmoozing, just checking to make sure it's vacant. I go to the sign-in sheet. I sign in on the sign-in sheet. I get to this one door that's closed. I push the door open. As I turn into the room to take a picture of the room, I notice the closet door is open, and there's this guy sitting in the closet, no shirt, a pair of shorts, and he's holding a sheet cake, a giant full like party sheet cake from the grocery store. I freak out because I didn't expect him. I drop my phone. The back of the phone comes off. The battery comes out of the phone. Phone's laying there. He jumps up nervous and freaked out. Probably, I'm sure he was on some type of drugs or something. As he comes towards me to leave the room, because now I'm blocking the door, I step back and I bump into a nail that's hanging out of the wall. I catch my leather jacket on the nail. It goes behind the jacket into my Zanga jacket, my suit jacket. As I drop to the ground, because I thought somebody grabbed me from behind, ripped the whole back of the jacket open. hit the ground. The guy tosses the cake over at me. Now, not only did I ruin my only expensive suit, and my leather jacket I wiped off from, but I have cake literally all over me, chocolate cake. Then I had to put the phone back together. I mean, you never know what to expect. I guess you had to be there to truly enjoy it. But to see me walking out with the chocolate and the white icing all over my suit definitely was, so I couldn't wear that suit. I had to go to Kohl's and buy a quick suit, I call it. You go in there, you buy the pants and the jacket separates. I had to go in there and buy that, so I had a suit to wear. But I was literally fighting time, full sweat, definitely ruined my day. And sometimes I say to myself, so that particular house, I bet you was an $86,000 house. And I say to myself, is this worth all this bullshit, pardon the language, just for the small commission that I end up with? And here it is, I ruined the leather jacket and the suit, you know, and I second guess myself. But I've been doing it now, like Mike, for gosh, probably 30 years. And I don't know what else we would do. So it's a client, it's a client that keeps giving you listings on only one listing presentation, pretty much, but you have to keep your performance up. Anyway, so make sure so squatters are a big thing. You got to get the squatters out. So in Vegas, they have now the squatter patrol. They have one up in the Northwest and one in Henderson, where if it's a proven squatter that's done this before, you send them the form. They used to send the task force out that would literally take them right out of the house. I think in California, you still have to evict them, right? If they don't want to leave, Mike?
Well, it's very difficult. Depends on the policeman you get to show up. It depends on what the squatter says to the policeman. If it looks to the policeman at all like these people may have a right to be there, they'll walk away. They'll say, you guys need to go to court. So what they're saying is now you have to do an eviction. Now, I have had them work with me. Not all police are this nice. They said, well, let me give it a try. He'll walk back up to the guy and say, listen, this gentleman has just said he will not file charges if you vacate the premises right now. And I've had him pack it up and leave. That's great. But these guys are pretty skilled. The squatters now are making money trying to rent out the property to the public, and they're collecting as many deposits, thousands of dollars from various people, and doing their best to stay there as long as they can before they know the game is up and they got to move on. So it's a racket now.
Yeah, and they'll post an ad on Facebook. I've had people text me or call my office and say, hey, you're listing in so I had one in Seven Hills in Terracina. It was like $2.5 million house at the time. Like, your house in Terracina is for rent for $2,500. Is that real? I said, oh, of course it's not real. Are you kidding me? Oh, I was meeting the guy. I was going to send him a PayPal rent deposit so we could lock down the property. We're out of state and we don't want to miss out on this great deal on a rental. So luckily in that case, I saved him and myself. But typically those people are out of money. That money's gone. No one's gonna, it's a matter of them taking that person, if they have a real name, to small claims court. So that's another thing we have ourselves into crying, and and a lot of times too, when we go to do that that occupancy check and you knock on the door and an elderly woman comes to the door, the kids open the door, and they call mom, who's 7 months pregnant, and she comes to the door and 4 little kids are around her. And you have to explain, guess what? The bank just foreclosed. You need to move out of the property. I need to have you out within 30 days. And then a lot of times they don't, oh, I don't know. My husband's been handling this, and, things like that. And like John Abramovich was saying before, there were some times too where the property would be vacant, let's say, and the servicer rekeys it. And we get there and there's still food on the table, or breakfast bowl and cereal and kids' toys, and the ladies ironing. When they do the lockout, when that sheriff comes for the lockout, they lock them out and they say, pack what you can, we'll give you 10 minutes. And that's it. They get 10 minutes and they're out. Pack your medications and personal belongings. You can get a hold of the agent for the rest of the stuff. And then it's up to the agent, them to contact you. And I had one up, I'm going to say it's up on the way to Mount Charleston. I forget what property it was. And I had switched servicers 3 times, and I got the property back from one service. I got it reassigned to me from the next service, and then to the next one. Each system was different. We had to do different things. But that woman, I bet you it took her a month. Every day I had to drive up there to help, open the doors for her after I rekeyed it after the lockout. I had to drive up there every day to let her in so she could pack. And one woman packed literally I I think it was like in 7,000 square foot house with the separate house and garage. And they had race cars. The son was I forget, some type of dirt race car driver guy, and he had his friends, and they all had their cars. So everybody's car and garage was different. Different people were involved. I had literally 15 people that had to move their stuff out. Every day I had to drive up there and let them in. And then I had to wait there with them, because what if they pulled out the dishwasher, or they took apart the hot water heater? That would have been on me, because they were all there when I took the lockout photos. You know what I mean? So you have to make sure. Can't trust anybody today. Not anybody at all. You have to be very careful. But so we
Keep an
talked
eye-
about that.
Keep an
I'm
eye
sorry.
on Craigslist, because these scammers are using things like Craigslist to advertise for potential tenants. So we try to keep an eye on that, so we know in advance what's going on.
Right. Right. And you could Google the address, and I think it might pull up the Craigslist, since Craigslist is part of Google. So if it has the address in there, it might even pull Facebook.
Yeah.
So you definitely you definitely got to troubleshoot it and keep it. You got to keep on the property from the day you get it to the day after it closes, or even sometimes past after it closes, because anything can happen. So this is very detailed. And also on those ongoing inspections, again, squatters, broken sprinklers. If a sprinkler breaks, let's say over in Henderson, here in Nevada, if a sprinkler breaks and every day it's squirting up in the air, you're going to get a violation. And the neighbors probably aren't going to call you and tell you. Everybody's pissed off that the lawn is brown, or the shrubs are dead, or that you took their neighbor out, locked them out of their house. And sometimes the neighbors don't help, sometimes they do. And they might call you and tell you, Joe, hey, the sprinkler goes off every day at 2 o'clock for an hour, and it's a fountain. I just want to let you know. And then when that water bill now is no longer $48 a month, and you submit it to the bank for 300, they're going to call you and go, Mike, why is this one 300? Oh, the water thing broke. In one day, you should have caught this. All right, Mike, you can pay the difference on that one. We're going to pay what we paid last month, and we're going to pay the 68 on this. That's all you're approved for. So now Mike eats 250 or whatever it might be on that water bill. And guess what? You have to eat it in order to keep that client happy, because they're going to keep sending you properties, hopefully. And hopefully you won't be eating that one on each. And again, you got to report everything. One of the things we had out in Vegas, up in Summerlin for a while, was people were taking the air conditioning cover up off, taking the air compressors out and putting the cover back down, and screwing it back on. And the compressors be missing. And we wouldn't catch it until a home inspection, if it was in the beginning, or literally right before closing, it would happen. And then they go to do their walkthrough, and the air conditioning isn't going on. And if they catch it, then that's something we have to deal with prior to closing, and we'd have to figure it out. And then I have to explain to that banker service how I missed this, and how long has it been missing, and how do you explain that? Fannie Mae, one of the things they did was we made up stickers and put this device is being tracked by GPS, or this property is tracked by camera security. And we'd even put up like fake cameras. But the GPS thing was kind of crazy, because there was no GPS. And a lot of times we get ready to close and we forget about it, and the agent would be like, Joe, when are you coming to take the GPS out of the oven and refrigerator? And I'd have to say, oh, we took that out already, Tuesday, it's out. And well, now I can't get the sticker off. So let's say the sticker scratches it or damages it. Guess who they come looking for the difference? They come back to you. So try to be creative, but make sure you cover your P's and Q's on this. So there's always something fun. And then once you got it vacant, you got it cleaned out. And remember, now the trash out is something else you're going to lay the money out for. So if they left, and they left 10 years worth of stuff in there and in the garage, the trash out guy is going to give you an estimate. It's not going to be guaranteed that it's going to be $400 to $600, let's say, or $1,000 in some markets. He's going to come look at it. He's going to be like, Joe, I got like 8 truckloads coming out of here. I need $4,000 for this trash out. So now you got to go back and you got to explain that to the banker service. And sometimes they might say, get me a second, or get me 3 estimates on that trash out. And then you're going to be calling everybody you can to get these different estimates. So make sure your vendors and contractors are lined up. I'm sure it took Mike years to put a winning team together on that back end. And then, like he said, his locksmith gives him a very good deal on pricing. You're not going to find that all the time, especially when you first get started, because the locksmith's going to be just as weary of you paying him as you are him doing a good job. But Mike's reputation is super. So I'm sure the contractors are dying to work with him. And then you're going to have to coordinate repairs. So let's say there's a leak in the ceiling, and they say, based on your BPO photos or based on your inspection photo of this leak in the ceiling, they're gonna say, all right, let's rip out the sheetrock in the ceiling. If there's insulation in there, let's replace it, and then make sure it's put up and it's complete and it's finished. You're gonna have to get 3 estimates, and it's gonna be apples to apples, and it's gotta be spelled out exactly. Everybody has to write their estimate almost exactly the same. Sometimes the services don't have the attention span. If one guy gets into a whole story and the other guy just puts repair ceiling $1,500, and the other guy gets into detail, they're gonna want everything to be the same. Apples to apples is what they always say. So you're gonna have to call the 3 contractors back and make sure everybody's thing is the same. And everybody's gonna want to know what they have to do to get that job. And again, it's always the lowest guy, obviously, because you want to make sure that the bank gets the best deal. So you're gonna coordinate that, and guess what? You're gonna lay that money out too, until that's complete. You're gonna submit it, and you're gonna get that when they're good and ready to give it to you, unfortunately. All right, so you're gonna coordinate repairs. All your contractors have to be licensed, insured, and reliable. And I always say you want to make sure they could carry funds. Sometimes you're going to run into a situation with a locksmith won't rekey the property because they think it's occupied and they don't want to have that liability. And they're going to say, Joe, I went by, it looks like it's occupied, I can't do it. And then you're going to either go back with them and be there when they rekey it, or you're going to have to send somebody to be there with them. Okay. And then once you get everything complete and everything looks good, you're going to take new photos for marketing. This time around for the REO, everything's going to be different. They're not going to just be looking for the REO agent. A lot of times, I'm sure you guys gone online, you're looking at an REO listing and there's junk thrown all over in the MLS photos, or they're taken up and down instead of landscape wise, and it's like a half a picture of a room. You can't really see what it looks like. This time they're going to want those marketing photos to be stellar. I've talked to clients that are considering maybe even virtually staging or even staging some of the higher end properties. So in Orange County, there are a couple clients that are going to want a staging company to come in and actually stage the property and make it look like a $2.8 million home or whatever it may be. So again, that's another expense that you're going to have to maintain for a period of time until you submit those reimbursements and get them back. And be innovative on your listing information. Don't just put bank owned, and a lot of times you can't call it a bank owned or a foreclosure. So we always use corporate owned. That's a term we use that everybody seems to get along with. Doesn't make them feel compromised or less. So if you see foreclosure, if you could search the MLS for foreclosure, you're going to expect it to be a piece of garbage that you could offer less money for. So corporate owned could be one of the hedge funds. It could be one of the iBuyers. It could be anybody's property. It could be a relocation property. So it'll escalate your listing to a higher standard. And also too, these banks and services are going to want to see your MLS comments. So now I'm starting to see agents using AI to create these comments. Little Miss Heidi over here is very good with that. She's a super AI expert, and she has everything prepared. And I'm gonna go through a couple more things. I'm gonna let her talk about short sales and what you need to get into that, because we're gonna start seeing more and more pre-foreclosure properties, and the bank's gonna look for us to step in at an early level. I've been meeting and talking with I'm gonna say right now probably 22 to 30 servicers about getting in on an entry level. And again, it's securing the property for us at the end, but we're going to be getting in at a different point than we were. It's not going to be that, hey, we just foreclosed on this property, we just took it back at the sale, Mike, go take care of the property. It's going to be, hey, we're reaching out to you today, we did a workout, this is the 3rd workout for this guy, he's still struggling, his credit scores are tough, we can't do it again, we want you to reach out on our behalf and see if we can make something work. They have equity in the property. I think they could sell the property. It doesn't need to go to foreclosure. And we're going to be stepping in. And this is something that if you're new, you probably don't know about. If you've been on previous calls, I have an assisted equity sale program that I've been working on with some of these services. And that's going to bring us in at this early level. And we're going to be assisting them with the occupants of the property. I mean, at the end of the day, and in all honesty, we don't want to see foreclosures. So we need to be involved proactively. And Heidi's going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. She's going to talk about the REO and the default stuff, the pre-REO and default stuff. But again, you got to be a people guy, and you got to be able to build that relationship with the people and try to work something out for them ahead of time, so it doesn't have to get to it. All right, what else is next? We talked about the MLS notes, be innovative, make sure your listing kind of sells the property, not just, again, like I said, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, pool, kind of get in there, elaborate it. You can have AI help you with it. AI is always a good friend. And then you're going to follow up on your files. You're going to follow up the day that puppy gets listed, and offers are coming in. A lot of sellers are going to have offer portals where they got to submit the offer directly. Some of them are going to be submitting it to you, and you have to make sure it's a complete offer. So the offer rolls in, you got to make sure everything is done that's supposed to be done on that initial paperwork. And if there's REO or seller addendums, you got to make sure those are completed. And also, one of the things you always get is on your offer, you'll get, I want to use Patty Smith at 123 escrow. And it doesn't work that way. The banks and servicers are going to have relationships in place with title and escrow, probably the ones that did the actual foreclosure or the pre-foreclosure work. So they're going to say, this is going to be assigned to, let's say, Fidelity National Title. Patty Walter is going to be your escrow officer. And you're going to get that once that escrow opens. So you need to make sure, if you're going to need an addendum to change that, if you're the broker like Brian, you're going to make sure that every addendum's in place for compliance so that, that file can smooth through. So if you're doing this all yourself, it's going to be a lot. So that's why team building is going to be a critical piece. Darren is going to take the time to, anybody that wants to come in, and he's going to go through that with you, what it would look like to build out a team, and what it would look like for you to actually be in this role, to take this on. And I always say there's something in here for everyone, because there's different places. You can be the REO agent, or you could be the buyer's agent on that REO team. You could be the field inspector guy. And I don't know if I really touched on it, but we do a task per fee. And we, instead of having, 22 agents and 16 admin, I've downscaled myself, and I actually run, I'm in a bunch of California, Keller Williams market centers, and I'm in a very big market center in Vegas. There's 4 offices, probably 600 agents, I think we have total. My business now, I kind of feed off of my office and the structure of the office. So I use different people that are other agents in the office for the field work. I use ongoing inspections. The buyer's side comes back to the market center, and I use agents in the market center to do those buyer sides, so that I don't have to monitor and run a massive team. And so again, I don't need that 4,900 square foot office that I pay for, that maybe nobody's going to be in. So I'm very grateful to be in the situation I am in Vegas with Keller Williams, the marketplace. Everybody's worked with me to help me structure and ramp my business up to the point where everybody's working with me. I know I have Darren here. I saw Sean a minute ago. So Sean's up in the Summerlin office, the team leader. I'm not driving up to Summerlin to do things. I'm shooting the call out, and I'm getting an agent out of that office to participate and help out. And we all work together, which is nice, to help me move my business forward. So Darren's going to be able to set us up and do that kind of like team preview, look at your business. He's my business coach. I'm going to call him my Superman, because he restructures me and beats me up. He smacks me around a lot too. He's a wrestler, so I have to be careful. So, but
we all know Joe, and we all know that that's not happening.
So I'm going to tell you from I catch him when he leaves at night. It'd be different from behind. So I wouldn't want to wrestle with him. But so he's given us the time to meet with us, or any of us that want to see what it would look like and what we have in place already. That's a big piece. And before I start talking about and I turn everything over to Heidi, I want Darren to jump in real quick. We have some upcoming stuff that I definitely think would be a benefit of helping you ramp your business up. Darren, you have a second to jump in?
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Joe. By the way, awesome. I know you get a lot of messages like before this and after this. You spend a lot of time talking to people about REO stuff, and so to share this knowledge is pretty awesome. The one thing Joe asked me to talk about, one of the things that we have here that we all know, many people who are in this room, they're looking for solutions to be able to navigate through this market. And so one of the things that we need to do is be aware of what's going on in the market and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a free training course that's coming up in October that I'd like to share with you guys. Right, that's screen one. It's a course called Bold, and if you'd like to, while I'm talking, you can take yours. If you're in Vegas, this works. If it's not in Vegas, you can't go to it. Sorry, guys. But it is a course where we fly this guy, Stephen McNair, from another town. He's actually from Phoenix. He's the top producer down there. And he travels here once a week for 7 weeks. Actually, this is 6 weeks. And he teaches current market stuff of what to do with getting listings, to navigating through this NAR stuff, to mindset stuff. We've been doing this a long time, but for the last, Gary Keller actually just rewrote this. And so it is something that we're doing to help our agents make more money during this time. So I'd like to invite all of you guys who are here in Vegas that would like to check it out. It's awesome. It's the first step. You would do a screenshot or take your phone and zap that sucker, and there's no cost. It'll give you a good idea of what it would be like if you want to do the whole thing. If you do the whole thing, it's 6 weeks, $800. The cool thing is this: the agents that do this course across the country, on average, and I've done this 14 times, on average, do 11 to 13 pieces of business during that 7-week period, which means listings taken, closings, or buyer broker agreements. And so for those of you who are looking for solutions, you're obviously in this room for the REO stuff. This is also a great solution, and we just wanted to invite you to it. So if you could just zap that first step to Bold, you want to check it out, and then from there you're able to sign up or whatever. But I think the main thing is we just want to make sure that there's lots of solutions. So is that pretty much what you wanted me to cover, Joe?
Yeah, I think so. And then if anybody does want to reach out to kind of get that team building, or let's say restructuring the business or preparing, and they want to get some time, I guess I could have them email me, and then I'll forward it over to you, and you can see what you could schedule.
So little side note, my background, I've been working with Joe. For the last year, I've been doing this thing called Only Team Zoom Mastermind, where I interview teams that do over 100 units a year, and we talk about leads, listings, and leverage, where we get our leads, and how do we lead our team, and all that kind of stuff. And so for years, I've really kind of been the team guy. And so this process of building an REO business requires leverage. And so if you guys want to, number one, participate in the, it's every Tuesday at 11:30 Pacific Standard Time. You can jump on there and you get to hear all these amazing guys. And for those who are looking for solutions, I spend a lot of time going through an exercise that helps uncover what you're trying to accomplish, what are the missing pieces, and where do we find those people in your leverage and in your life. So you can't do REO without having a team, and that's why Joe's asked me to step in here. So and the conversation's it's not KW stuff. It's all about your business and creating systems for that. So I want to invite, I'll put that link for the Facebook group to join the Facebook group for the Only Team Zoom Mastermind. And then you could jump on, the link is in there, but the Facebook group's got all the recordings of that I've done in the past. So anyway, that's why I'm the team building guy.
I appreciate it, Darren.
Thanks, Joe.
Everything you've done for me, I appreciate it. I'd like to be on one of the actual guy on that call instead of the guy listening to the team's only call.
Someday, Joe, when you grow up and only do I don't know, 1,000 transactions, I might be able to, in a year. He only did 300 last year in California by accident, and so maybe we'll do that, Joe.
Really? Okay, that'd be nice.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, well, I want to thank you. But yeah, so I don't know how much you guys can handle of me talking. I don't know if anybody wants to ask questions or throw some in. I was going to have Heidi talk about short sales, and she said, you know what, we were running too long. I think everybody's getting tired of this. We'll set short sales up for another time. So we're probably going to do that. But if you want to, anybody has questions, Heidi, are there any questions in the chat?
Let's see. No, but we have a Rochelle is definitely interested in getting help with her team. So
Okay. Okay, we'll get her with Darren and get their exchange information.
Darren,
Um,
what was the name of your group? Do you want to type that in the chat?
If you click on this link now, a couple things. I'll only let you in if you have a team. If you're running a team with assistants, to get access to the Facebook group with all the recordings. Now you don't have to have a team to be in the call, but to kind of get all the library and all that kind of stuff. That's what the Facebook group is. So it is you just click on that link, request that Facebook. If they're Joe knows everybody that's in here, and if I have any questions, I'll make sure that we get connected. But yeah, this is what I do is helping teams. It's complicated. You could definitely screw things up as if you're trying to build a team without a model. And so anyway, I hope that answered your question.
Hey, Joe, Rochelle wants to know if you're going to be at 5-star.
Well, you know what? I can't fly. I had some medical, I don't know if any of you guys remember from the first call. I was wearing my hat and I was talking about I had a brain bleed. So I was down for, gosh, I must have been out of the office for 3 weeks. My scar is just about gone now, but I don't know necessarily if flying is in the future, at least until December or January for me because of the pressure when you fly. So I'm going to be on the ground, anything I could drive to. So my California trips are all by car these days. I'm not flying into John Wayne and renting a Porsche. No, I would never rent a Porsche. Keep it inconspicuous. So anyway, but yeah, no, I'm not going to be attending. If you're going, Rochelle, and you can bring anything back, any wisdom, that'd be great. Brandy's going to be there. She's going to bring back a whole load of information for us, and hopefully she'll be able to be on our next call and kind of talk a little more about it. She flew out early this morning, so she's already in Texas on the ground. So we'll be, I think, hearing from her next week for sure. Heidi, do you have anything else to add in for us?
I don't think so. I don't think we've got any other questions from anybody.
Anybody else? No. I do want to say one thing though. On the tech side, I was talking about databases and systems. Everybody's using something different, and that's understandable. It could get very expensive. About using these systems. I know there's a bunch out there. The actual portals for the clients you're not going to be able to use to really manage your properties. It's only going to be that client stuff. I've been using Aspen Grove built that Wells Fargo portal iAgent. One of the things I have now is Heidi here is Super Tech. She's building out a bunch of things. She built out a bunch of platforms for short sales, and now she's going to be building out an REO platform. She's working on an inspection app so that when you're actually out on your REO inspection or your property inspection, you can upload everything into your app and then get to your office. It'll be all there waiting for you. Or if you have, let's say, an assistant back there, they could actually start working on things for you. So I'm going to have her share that. She got shy all of a sudden today and decided
Not shy. You're just on a roll. I mean, you're killing it. But we will take your wish. Yeah, I mean, I'm not messing up a good thing, but we will take your wish list. So if there are things, specifically that you wish there was a solution for, let us know.
And she's also building out a showing agent app, so that if you were to have a listing and you wanted to have somebody sit open houses or help you assist you with showings, that's something this app is going to have all put together. There's going to be agents just waiting. It's actually something we've actually built out at Keller Williams. We have agents in productivity coaching. They're going to be available to do showings and open houses and things like that for you. So Heidi's building out an app so that we'll be able to put this all into play. And we'll be able to make it a little easier for us. I think if we're going to I don't know if Mike's downsized a little bit or if he's still at that big team level. Are you, Mike? Are you still at the big team?
I'm way down. I have one employee. I'm down from 12 or 13 employees at my high point to 1 right now.
Yeah.
And I'll grow that again. I just, you get big, you get small. It just depends on the inventory.
Right. So yeah, and I think a lot of stuff now we could put into place technology wise that can help us. and eliminate the salary and the paying the taxes and the medical insurance and all this crazy stuff that staff leads you to have. So we're trying to piece these things together to make it easier this time. And it's only to make it easier for me. And you know, I'm fortunate to have Heidi in the mix here now to help with all that. And Darren helped restructure me. And it's important. It's important to start off in the right direction and not learn from mistakes. When I started in the business, Mike was up and running already. And you know, most of the guys that have been around for a long time aren't going to take some new guy under their wing and help them. It's just, it doesn't work out that way. So I made a lot of mistakes and I spent a lot of money foolishly, and I invested in a lot of systems that I didn't need. And again, with carrying all these things, I put my wife and family through hell. You know, there were times that we were struggling because I had to lay out, you know, 52 you know, power bills and water bills, and then I didn't get paid reimbursements back. And you know, so, or the trash out guy actually came to the house looking for his trash out money. So you get all kinds of things. You know, we one time we had used I asked someone in the office for a locksmith, and I think the guy did like 10 rekeys or something for us. And every day he'd come to the office looking to get paid, like literally the day he completed it. And from that day until he did the last one, until I finally told him he'd have to fine me, and if he can get the money from me, he, you know, he can have it. If it, you know, he leaves without it, then he leaves without it. But I mean, sometimes it could be annoying. So you got to make sure you have your contractors in place and you have your people around you. And right now, we all want to start off slow. Nobody wants to go out and hire 25 people and, you know, pay them until this volume hits. But so we're going to, next time, Heidi's going to talk about short sales and pre-foreclosure and the pre-default stuff, and we're going to mix in our assisted equity sales, and we're going to kind of, that's going to be our topic, and we're going to go with that we're going to see the volume from first. I already have commitment from some services on the assisted equity sales, and that's something that we're going to launch with a bunch of the agents that are already experienced and up and running, like Mike and Ray and a bunch of the guys that have been on for a few weeks and that I know for years. So that's going to be something we're going to roll with. And Heidi's going to introduce that on our next session. And she's going to talk about actually getting busy now, getting involved with these people in default and bridging that gap. And it's going to make us look a lot better to the servicers if we're proactive. And we're going to be launching a public-faced kind of like help website where they can come to. Our REO lenders are going to be fit into that mix. I know John was on here a minute ago. I think he might have left. I might have bored him to death. John Abramowitz from Cardinal. John's going to be fitting that, and Darren Pomponio from All Western is up in Northern California. He's going to be fit into it. And we're going to rely on these partners to help us along the way. So help the people out. So that's definitely something. It's something you can start earning on today or tomorrow once you get that in place. And Heidi's going to quick start us on our next event. Right, Heidi? You're not going to hide?
A quick start short sales. That's funny. There's nothing quick.
So there'll be no hiding next time. All right. If anybody has anything else, anybody? Oh, so big announcement. So we have a big announcement we put in the email. I wasn't going to tell anybody, but it's a big announcement. So I've literally signed on some of these outsourcers for this assisted equity sale piece, and this can roll out probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks, where we're going to see some volume. And that's why I was kind of trying to fast track everybody, so it's official. Again, it's going to be how this whole thing is set up and marketed is as a Keller Williams piece, because I'm part of Keller Williams. So I marketed 1,085 market centers as my bricks and mortar, and the 183,000 agents nationwide. And I leverage that piece, and we're going to be taking a bigger active role in training and educating some of the Keller Williams agents via community, as they call it. So you guys that have been in the mix for a while, I want you to know that I'm going to find a way for you to participate in it. And I think that's it. I think that's kind of exciting, you know, and we're going to keep these things rolling. We might just go monthly instead of twice a month. We do have a live event coming up at Fidelity. I know it was scheduled for the last week of the month. We'll kind of look and see what type of a turnout, who could be there for it. And if we're going to continue with it, we may have to postpone it. But that would be a good thing to unpack this assisted equity sale and the short sale piece. But I'd love to have you all active, and I'd love to have you all up and running. I don't know if I'm going to get Darren to get together with everybody to build them out in time, but if not, we could always fit people in. So he's going to have to be full-time, my Darren. Wouldn't that be fun, huh? Sean, wouldn't that be cool if I just had Darren doing all my stuff for me? Anyway, so that's it, guys. I guess unless you have any other questions, we're gonna look for the next email update. We're gonna be going to Heidi built out. I'm not gonna take the credit. She built out like a page that we can all come to, and we'll have a bunch of information and stuff on there. So as this materializes, we're gonna have a little home hub that you guys can get to online, pick up recordings and copy the information and any important things that we need as well. So we're just here to help and educate everybody and make everybody's life easier and introduce these things that haven't been around for a while and bring them back. So that's it. That's all I have for today. If anybody else, anything else from anybody else? No?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We're going to wrap it. And thanks everybody for coming. And hey, reach out anytime. You can always email me or shoot me a text. And then those of you getting with Darren, I think he put his information in the chat. Or you could reach out to me. I see him all the time, so I'd be more than glad to pass it on. All right, guys, everybody have a good day. Keep positive and keep thinking of new ideas because we got to move this business forward for all of us. Okay? Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye.